Marjorie Trader Greene. Okay, she is the MAGA darling. She is basically the de facto Speaker of the House. At least there's some credible reports to suggest as much, because Kevin McCarthy desperately needs her support, her star power. She's a darling of Donald Trump. There were some reports to suggest that he might consider her as a vice presidential candidate. Just imagine. I know. It's too much. It's too much trauma.
Move on from that. Yeah. It hurts.
Yes. She had an interaction in defense of George Santos, the pathologically lying Republican, I repeat myself, who has been indicted under like 13 counts of a federal crime. He's being investigated by Brazil. 80% of his constituents want him to resign. Basically, what happened was Democrats tried to basically call the Republicans' bluff, get them on record. Okay, some of you have called him to resign. You say you're the party of principle and Jesus and the family values. Let's test it. Here's George Santos. Why don't we expel him? He's, again, indicted for 13 federal crimes. He has pled guilty to stealing, I think it was checks in Brazil. This is a controversial man. Let's expel him from the House of Representatives. And every single Republican voted to protect him, including Marjorie Taylor Greene. So what happened was, outside of the House of Representatives, he's giving a press conference, and one of our favorite Democratic congressmen, Jamal Bowman, he's leaving the House of Representatives, and he has some friendly advice to Marjorie Taylor Greene and the Republicans. So I'd like to play this clip.
Party's hanging by a thread. The party's hanging by a thread. You gotta save the party. Listen, no more QAnon, no more MAGA, no more debt ceiling nonsense. Come on now, save the party, save America, save the children, do something about guns. Come on, invest in education. The border is what Trump left in. What are we talking about? What kids? We're accepting them. We love them. We love the migrant children. What do you mean lost them?
You can't find them.
What are you talking about? What are you talking about?
Yeah, migrant children missing. You don't know
No, we don't know the news. I don't know. That's Fox News. That's Fox News. Listen, I need you to save the party.
You should pay attention.
So,
you mentioned in our last story that you were experiencing some visceral pain watching clips of Ted Cruz and Lindsey Graham. I've mentioned to people that it's interesting how you can kind of build up enough mental scar tissue where most of covering for me doing this job, American politics, it's fine. I feel the anger in moments, but I'm able to set that aside and move on with my life once I'm done. And watching certain clips don't make me go bonkers. I'm getting that way, the opposite way. It's not working anymore with Marjorie Greene, and oh gosh, really, really don't enjoy watching clips of her. But Jamal Bowman's exactly right. The way, because what we'll get to in a clip later, I know, is Marjorie Greene trying to make a point about, Jamal Bowman, we might get to this, but one of the things she said in response to that clip was, he was saying, save my party. I want to save America. Don't be concerned with the party. No. The point is, Marjorie Trader Greene, the point is, the way we save the country is to get your ideology out of the GOP. We save I guess if you want to use that term, the GOP, and that's how we save the country, by getting this radical, extreme QAnon, Marjorie, MAGA ideology out of it. That's how we save the country, to get that out of the GOP. And so we don't need to worry right now about trying to save the other party, because it's not even anywhere close to what's going on with the Republican Party. And Jamal Bowman was exactly right in pointing that out to her face.
Yeah, it's so funny because, obviously, I want everybody to note the nature of the exchange, right? Because they were both smiling, they were both laughing. They clearly don't like each other. I have no doubt that there is genuine contempt there, understandably so, in terms of Jamal Bowman's potential contempt for her. And I'm certainly sure on her end, she feels likewise. But that was a relatively civil exchange when you consider other uncivil exchanges that have occurred between Republicans and Democrats over the years. But setting that aside, the fact of the matter is that Marjorie Trader Greene, is constantly obsessed with issues of irrelevance. So this is in the same time frame. While she's defending, this is when she's defending George Santos from expulsion and justifying her decision to do so, trying to hype him up in a post hearing press conference. This is also the same time frame in which she introduced articles of impeachment for the sixth time, her sixth, against President Biden in 2.5 years. By the way, when people say, well, Democrats tried to impeach Trump twice, the level of impeachment has skyrocketed since President Biden has taken over, because as usual, Republicans escalate to a far greater degree. But yeah, note the relative civility and the affability between the two, which leads us to our second clip. Okay. This is Marjorie Taylor Greene addressing that exchange that we just saw between Representative Bowman and herself. Note the difference.
What concerns me about Jamal Bowman is he has a history of aggression, not just towards others, but towards me in particular, and I'm very concerned about it. But I will tell you what's on video is Jamal Bowman shouting at the top of his lungs, cursing, calling me a white supremacist, which I take great offense to. That is like calling a person of color the N-word, which should never happen. Calling me a white supremacist is equal to that, and that is wrong. I feel threatened by him. He not only led a mob there, but his boisterous lies. And I'll tell you another thing he said outside there. He was saying, save your party. I kept telling him, no, save the country. It's not about political parties. We shouldn't care about
I'm tempted just to torture you, just to leave her up here like this, but I'm not.
She says, and I know, I get it. I get the whole reason she says stuff like that is to get a rise out of people, but it's working, okay? It's working. That calling someone a white supremacist, calling her in particular a white supremacist, is the same as calling someone the N-word. Number one, I mentioned in a past segment about Marjorie Greene, a term that I've coined called celebratory ignorance. One celebrating their own ignorance. It's a party for their own lack of knowledge, and the less they know, the more they feel able to speak on a particular subject. And there she's broadcasting the fact that she doesn't get the difference, or she gets it, but she's choosing to pretend like she doesn't get the difference between an ideology and an identity. Because you are calling somebody the N-word, which is not Marjorie Greene there, but I'm saying that word is associating with, is trying to reference the identity of someone and then insulting them based on that in the most vile terms. Saying that someone's a white supremacist is saying they buy into a particular ideology that has nothing, you can change that has nothing to do with your identity. And so obviously it's not logical, but the point is to get a lot of her followers to go, oh yeah. And I know we have another clip where Jamal Bowman responds and points this out, where it's all the dog whistles. Oh, the black man, he threatened me. Oh, I felt so threatened by him. He was shouting at the top of his lungs. As you said, Josiah, really? We just watched the clip, Marjorie. You were, I would say, far more aggressive than Jamal Bowman was.
She was certainly engaging with him on the same level. Yeah, they were both raising their voice, but it was like, there weren't microphones around them, right? Like they weren't speaking with the lapel mic or anything like this. Yeah. They were outside. They were in front of
and it was playful.
Crowd. Right. There was a playfulness. You simply can't cite a decibel level and say that that's, inherent aggression, right? And she was matching him for energy, and actually looked like, I think to a cursory observer, that they both enjoyed the exchange almost, perhaps in like a combative sparring way. One of the things I like a lot about Congressman Bowman is he's a very effective troll to Republicans when he wants to be. He knows how to get a rise out of them. He can confront them with the facts. We've seen it, in the news for the past several months. So for her to then characterize it, we saw how she handled it in person, and then for her to characterize it a radically different way, however long later, to just cynically exploit it for political sympathy, it's disgusting. And then on top of that, her conflation of the term white supremacist with the N-word. Number one, she's trying to neuter the, 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 she's trying to significance of the N-word in terms of its history of oppression, what it means to people, how it hurts people. She's trying to essentially say, it's not that bad. But also the term white supremacist is that bad. But like you said, when racists use the N-word, they are using it to ascribe a characteristic to a person's immutable traits, the color of their skin, right, which you can't change, right? It's a derogatory term saying, this is who you are. You can't change this, and this is the hurtful label we ascribe to you. Whereas if you're a white supremacist, now I'm not a psychiatrist, but perhaps you could just not be one. What if you chose simply to not espouse? Yeah, I know, I hear you, and maybe it'll take effort, because white supremacy it's pervasive, it's sinister, it's taught, it's learned, it's regurgitated among the various systems in society, oftentimes imperceptibly. You don't even notice it until eventually it's like, oh, where did that come from? And it's just been building for years. I'm not saying there's not effort involved, but white supremacists can cease to be white supremacists. So the conflation of the two is really disgusting. But you did tee up Representative Bowman's response to Congresswoman Greene. And so I'd like to play that because this clip beautifully juxtaposes her words with his in real time. And so you see the contrast. So we'll take a look.
Marjorie Taylor Greene in her press conference this morning said something incredibly dangerous and incredibly reckless about me.
I think there's a lot of concern about Jamal Bowman. So, and I am concerned about it. I feel threatened by him.
This country has a history of characterizing black men who are outspoken, who stand their ground, and who push back as being threatening or intimidating.
Yelling, shouting, raising his voice. He has aggressive, his physical mannerisms are aggressive.
I never invaded her personal space and gregarious the entire time. How is that intimidating?
So I am very concerned about Jamal Bowman, and he's someone that people should watch.
But she knows what she's doing when she does that. And unfortunately, white supremacists, historically, this is what they do. They try to dehumanize black people, black skin, and the black humanity so that they can be, more likely to be targeted for harm. So she's not even using a dog whistle. She's using a bullhorn to put a target on my back to the people that she refers to as MAGA people out there who might want to cause harm. This is one of the reasons why Emmett Till was killed. And throughout history, black men have continued to be characterized as aggressive because, one, because of our skin color, but two, because we happen to be outspoken and passionate about certain issues.
So you think what she said was racist?
So I am very concerned about Jamal Bowman.
The fact that someone such as Jamal Bowman, who actually has an interest in improving the lives of his constituents and trying to make America better and actually putting forward policy solutions to the problems facing people, that he is not just technically in the same position as she is, but actually in effect less powerful than she is because of her sway within the Republican Party and sway with Kevin McCarthy, is sickening. That someone like Marjorie Greene, who has no interest in improving the lives of her constituents, if she did, she would talk about real problems, not the fake ones that she makes up. And she would spend her time actually attempting to help people instead of just demonizing people. But she actually has more power within Congress than Jamal Bowman does with her authority, not her voting power, but her authority, because of how she demands kind of the MAGA part of the party. And that's disturbing. And that's why, if we want to save America, step one, get the MAGA ideology out of the GOP.
Yeah, and if that's not possible, get the GOP out of positions of power. It's one of the two. And so that was where the irony is Congressman Bowman was almost offering her an olive branch when he was like, save your party, before the country has to save itself from your party, right? It's a step-by-step process. And the last thing I'll say on that subject is, between your analysis and also what he himself said, there's really not much more to say other than I love the phrase that she's not using a dog whistle, she's using a bullhorn. Yeah. And that was just a beautiful turn of phrase.
Thank you so much for watching this video. For the outro, I want to quickly plug Josiah's channel. Hit them with it, Josiah.
All right, folks, you can find me at youtube.com/@ponderingpolitics, one word. If you like progressive politics, if you like the Republican Party being called out, and if you like collaborations with Luke Beasley, hit me up there.